see. Anyone else? Oh yeah, they're okay. It's going. Hi guys.
Hello.
Slowly trickling in.
Hello.
I'm gonna give you guys all a minute.
I need to mute all my pop-ups.
Yeah, I need to mute Slack, but I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I'm doing right now.
Wow, a lot of you guys joining here.
I thought we would be able to see everyone. I didn't know that we couldn't see.
Yeah, that's the thing with the webinar version. It lets more people join, but you can't really see.
So we can just see each other?
Yeah.
Hi.
Can they chat though in the chat box?
Yeah, the chat box is going to be open, and there's also a Q&A section if you specifically have questions, so feel free to go in on both of those. Okay, we have about 66 people here right now, so I'm gonna get started. Hello everyone, and welcome to our first marketing panel. We are so excited to have you here. My name is Virginia, and I am a social media specialist at ColourPop Cosmetics, and I will be hosting today's webinar along with Alondra.
Hi everyone, my name is Alondra and I am also a social media specialist here at ColourPop Cosmetics. I am so excited to have you guys all here. We planned this panel weeks ago with every single one of you in mind. So we hope that you guys learned something to, excel in your college career and career journey. So I want to make sure that you guys get the most of this panel. So on the bottom of the screen, there's going to be a Q&A tab where you guys could feel free to ask any questions, which we'll later use during our Q&A portion of the panel. Also, please feel free to interact. There's going to be a side chat room. I'll be there replying back to you, so share any comments or any insights that you would like to share with us.
Yes, thank you so much, Alondra. So, as she said, just feel free, chat along there. We'll be actually taking the Q&A questions at the end and using them as well as some of the ones from your registrations. So don't worry, we will get to all of your questions. And we plan this panel just with the hopes of sharing some insightful career tips. As we know, many of you are looking to get into the beauty or marketing industry. I personally was in your same position just over a year ago, and I would have loved to have the opportunity to meet with people who are already in the field and who could help advise me on how they got to where they are and what they learned along the way. So with me today, I have some fellow members of our marketing team. They all have different focuses, but ultimately support the marketing efforts for ColourPop Cosmetics, Forthright Beauty, and Soul Body. So I would like to thank our panelists for joining us today. We are so excited to hear what you all have to say. Why don't you all introduce yourselves and tell us what your role is, and we can start off with Ashton.
Sure. Hello, I'm Ashton Wall, and I am the Director of Marketing Strategy at ColourPop. And let's see, I've been with the brand just about a year and a half. So it feels like 5 years some days and feels like 2 months other days.
Who's next?
Why don't we have Jordan?
Okay. Hi, I'm Jordan. I am the other marketing director at ColourPop, but do very different things from Ashton. I've been at the brand for a really long time, like 7 years, I believe, maybe longer. I started 2 years before the brand launched and got to work really closely with Laura, the founder, on the concept and the launch of the brand. And since then, I've been fortunate enough to get to try a little bit of everything as it grew into the monster that it is now.
And next we will have Nikki.
Hi, I'm Nikki. I'm the social media coordinator at ColourPop. I started here in 2017, so a little bit over 2 years, and I do social. I used to do all of social, but now my main focus is on Instagram.
And last we have Amelia.
What's up, guys? I'm Amelia. My current title is the Senior Manager of Community, so essentially that's like our influencer marketing team. The company for just over 3.5 years now. So it was a very different company when I started, and I actually joined on as the customer success manager, and then I kind of just grew and developed my role from there. So I also have a lot of insights and got to see the brand really explode. So I hope I get to share some of that with you today.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves. Now that you all know who they are, let's dive into each of their career journeys, and we can go in the same order. So we're going to start with Ashton.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I have a bit of a like checkered past as careers go. So I went to Santa Clara University up north, and I studied business. And then the minute I graduated, I realized that I wasn't as businessy as my counterparts that I graduated with. So I actually enrolled at FITM in the professional designation program under the product development degree. So I was really, really excited to do that. And the whole time I was at FITM, I thought I was going to go into fashion. I was convinced I was going to start an athleisure line. But life took me other places, and I never knew that beauty would be like my ultimate passion in an industry that I'm so, so happy to be in. So I worked a couple jobs before ColourPop, all with strategy and performance marketing. And yeah. Jordan?
So like I said, I guess I kind of jumped the gun earlier. I originally started interning for what would later be ColourPop when I was in college. It was my first like real job. I had done some internships. Actually, I guess I had done several internships in social media marketing before I started working on the ColourPop brand. And then like I said, worked really closely with the founder on the concepting and launching. And then when they got ready to launch, they were like, okay, you're graduating and we're launching the brand. So then when I first started, I primarily did marketing, but also did customer service. And then as the brand grew, I focused more and more on just the marketing side. And then now I primarily do, I guess, marketing and influencer. And then now I primarily oversee our collaboration program, which is with people like Disney, Hello Kitty, Kathleen Lights, Makeup Shayla, people like that.
Thank you. So my career journey, so way back in 2016, I was in college, and I had done a couple of internships while I was in college. I was also part of like a ton of orgs on campus, and I would always do like PR or social media in those orgs. And then fast forward to like around the time I was going to graduate, I was doing a internship at a fast fashion shoe brand, and they ended up just hiring me. So I worked there for a little over a year doing social media, but I got to do a couple other things there because they're a really small brand. So I did a little bit of influencer work with them, and then also a little bit of like content work. And then in 2017, I met Jordan and Sharon at Coachella, and then at my interview, they recognized me and they're like, "Are you that girl from Coachella?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." And then I got hired. And when I started at ColourPop, I did everything for social. So I did like Facebook and Twitter and all of that. But as we move forward and our team grew, now I'm mainly focused on Instagram. And then recently I started working on Forthray.
Hi. Yeah, so I've got kind of a few years on some of these ladies here, and so have a bit of a checkered past as well. I actually am born and raised in LA. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. So I went to CSUN, and I could not wait to get out of the Valley at that point. As soon as I graduated, I became a flight attendant, and I flew for a major airline for a few years, which I thought I really wanted the structure and the stability of being with a union job. But actually, it turns out I had more ambition than that. So I started working for a internet startup. It was a SaaS company in Santa Monica. And that's where I really got to get my hands dirty. I got to really get involved and try a bunch of different things. And turns out that I really enjoyed being part of like the operations side of things. We had a small company. I think I was like employee number 4. And then by the time I left, we were like, I think we had about 25 people. And I got to put in a lot of different processes and got to really start implementing softwares and things that would help the company to scale. So just so happens, I had a friend in common with John and Laura, got recruited to come to ColourPop, which is exactly what they needed done here. I think when I started, we were supporting a couple different brands, and the team was about 50 people. But it didn't really need to be that big. There just weren't the efficiencies that were needed. So I got to put in a lot of process, got to bring over a lot of software that I used at my other company to really help streamline all of that. So I was customer service manager for, I think, about 2 years, 2.5 years. And then I recently took the position as the communities manager. I'm working directly under Laura, and she just had like this crazy vision of really building out our influencer team and really expanding the ColourPop community, customers, influencers, everything. And she knew that I kind of had the chops to scale and get the program where she wanted it to be. So that's where I am today. I've got a team of 3 different influencer marketers, and then one that works kind of more between Ashton, me, and Jordan on the paid side, working with affiliates and things like that.
Thank you for sharing your stories. Yeah, it's really interesting to hear all the different paths that you can take to end up where we all are at ColourPop. So next, I'd like each of you to let us know, if you could go back in time with the knowledge that you have now, what advice would you give your college self? Ashton?
Oh my gosh, I actually think about this all the time. I would tell my college self to just follow what you love. And it sounds so cliche. Like people used to tell me that all the time when I was 20, 21, 22, and I'd roll my eyes at them and be like, successful people didn't follow what they love. They just did what worked. But it's true. If you just do what you love, your path will unfold into something that you never even thought possible. And don't worry about looking good on paper. Worry about getting as much experience as you can. That's what I would tell my 20-year-old self.
I love that.
Mine would branch off the end of Ashton's. I would say I would have told myself that I should do more internships, because I think that the one thing that I found, and then even now that I've been building my team and working with people fresh out of school, is that you don't know what you want to do or even what your skill sets are. And I think I was fortunate enough to do I did like 3 or 4 internships in social media marketing. So I at least could kind of narrow down, like, I'm better at copy than I am at like composing actual visual creatives. But now over time, I've just learned so much more trying all these different jobs. And I know that at ColourPop too, a lot of people are really fortunate, because since it is such like an open work environment, everybody can try different things. But I think that if you were able to knock out as much of that as possible while you were still in school, you would just know so much about what you do want to do, and even what your strengths are that you could play up when you are in a full-time role. So I think as many internships as possible.
That's so true. I definitely benefited from my college internships. Nikki?
For me, I think this is even like a tip for before you go to college. I wish I chose a college that was closer to the city. I went to college in the middle of the desert somewhere, and like it was so hard to find internships and opportunities like outside of campus. So I definitely wish I went to school closer to like actual people. And then number 2 would just be to take more advantage of like organizations on campus, because there are so many. And then I think that it's so easy to like get involved in the PR or social part of your org, that'll really like help build your resume before you start going outside of campus to look for jobs.
For me, it would have kind of been just go easy on yourself. Like, you don't have to have all the answers right now. Show up to class, do the work. But if you're not feeling especially connected to something, or if you are feeling something connected to something, like, just pay attention to those things. Some of those classes are not going to be for you. And on the flip side, you might find something that you really like. But you don't have to have all of the answers. I think I changed my major like a couple different times. Again, like, I came out of school and I like didn't really apply what I had learned in class right away. So yeah, just go easy on yourself. You don't have to have all the answers right now. And also, I wish in college I would have worked more on finding my voice and finding my confidence. I'm doing that now in the workplace setting, and it's a lot harder here. It's a lot harder to do that here. If I would have practiced a little bit more in college, speak up when you're in class, find that voice when you're in college, then it's much easier to bring it into the workplace.
I totally agree. I know like it takes practice to speak up, and especially like in the workplace, you are with those people for longer than just like one semester. So it's great practice to do that while you're still in school.
You'll be so much more valuable to any employer when you're comfortable speaking up and sharing your opinions.
Yeah, that's honestly so important. And like, your ideas matter, like no matter how small you might feel in whatever company that you're in, like what you say has like a unique perspective. So, you know, don't be shy. But thank you guys so much for sharing your advice. I know that I even took some note of those. So now I'm going to be passing it off to Alondra to manage the Q&A portion of this panel.
All right, guys. So we asked you in your registration to ask us a couple questions. So I went ahead and pulled some of those. So our first question is for you, Ashton. The question is, what strategy has worked well for you guys when reaching your consumer?
Yeah. So something that I feel so lucky, like this was predetermined ever before I got to ColourPop, is Laura, the founder, and Jordan, and even Sharon, who used to be with the business, I think really understood being where the customer is, right? So back in the day, that was Instagram. And I always say that Jordan actually like invented the influencer collaboration. Like truly, she invented it. There wasn't a name for it back then. But I think that's what's worked for ColourPop and what continues to work for us to this day is just being where the customer is and not necessarily doing like textbook marketing. You know, you can read a million books on it and blogs and people will tell you, do paid, be on Google, be on Bing. But if that's not where your customer is, then it's not going to do you any good. So where are you and where is your target demographic, and make sure you're there.
Yeah, we definitely always love hearing like what our customers request and what they want. So it's definitely really important to keep that in mind as we move forward with our strategy. All right, so next question goes to Jordan. How has product development and marketing changed since ColourPop's initial launch in 2014?
I feel like this is a big question.
I know, so give us all
Yeah, there's a lot of meat in here. I think that on the product side, it's definitely changed a lot for a lot of different reasons. One of them, obviously, when we first launched, we launched with 31 Super Shock Shadows, and that was the only thing that we had. And so at that point, the world was our oyster. We could launch absolutely anything because we didn't have anything. So I think that just that within itself, it does make it a little bit easier to kind of pick your next product. Like now we've launched a lot of the like core items, and so it takes like a lot of like co-thinking, the whole team coming together and deciding like now what makes sense for the brand, like what do our customers want to see. So I think that that's a big change. There's also been a shift in products that were really popular, and it's really funny to kind of see like the whole cycle of things come through. When we first launched, contouring was like huge. Everybody was contouring. That was kind of the wave then. Then it shifted to the ultra matte lips, which everybody was wearing ultra matte lips. That was it. It was very neutral eye, very matte liquid lips. And then now I think that we're kind of in the eyeshadow stage, which people are going really ham with eyeshadow being very experimental. People are just a lot more comfortable with color than they have been historically. And then even now I think that we can kind of see this shift back towards more of like a natural glam. And I think we're all kind of like, what's going to be like the next big wave here. So I think that's on the product development side. On the marketing side, also really big changes. When we first started ColourPop, influencer marketing was literally non-existent. People were just kind of starting to dabble in social media marketing. And I think that ABH was really the only brand that I can think of that was even talking to influencers. It was really funny because when we first launched, we just wanted somebody to be talking about our product and trying our product. YouTube videos were really big, like review videos, but they weren't even that sponsored at this time. They were still primarily 100% organic. And we were emailing everyone asking them to take our product and they wouldn't. So I think that we were one of the first waves of like PR gifting, now something that's extremely saturated. Even like the arm swatches that are really popular. Our product development manager, Erin, she was one of the first people. She was like, we have to do multiple arm swatches. They need to be on multiple skin tones. We need to show all the shades. So I think there's just been, ColourPop has witnessed the entire birth of social media and influencer marketing, and it's been for sure really fun, but very different.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I came in like obviously later. So it's nice to hear like how things were in 2014. It was a really long time ago. All right, so Nikki, next question. What are some useful skills to have in marketing?
I think obviously like there are hard skills like Google Analytics, using Rival IQ, being able to pull metrics, that type of thing. That's easily learnable. But I think something that we don't think about all the time is like being able to spot trends is a huge marketing skill. I think it'll really take you a long way. Like not just being able to spot trends like, oh, blue eyeliner is trending right now, but also to be able to spot trends in content. So like short form videos are working over long form videos, or like maybe we need to sign more TikTok influencers because that's blowing up right now. So I think that'll really help in like any facet of marketing. If you're just doing like influencer marketing or you're doing social, I think that'll take you a long way.
All right, so looking at trends, amazing. Amelia, question for you. How do you stand out in your class or in your future job?
Yeah, I think that kind of goes hand in hand with what we talked about earlier. I think just prepare for your classes, prepare just like in the way you would for a meeting. So that way you feel confident in speaking up and contributing. One of my things as a manager, and I know I've talked with Jordan and Ashton about this, but one of my things as a manager is if you see a problem or if you see an opportunity to make something better, like come with a solution. Don't just bring the problem and say, look, I don't know what you want to do about it. You know, say like, here's the issue. Here's what I think we should do about it. So that goes a long way. And then just one other thing, like make an effort to get to know people personally. Like take the walk to go get coffee. Sit down and have lunch with somebody. Because that will go a long way in creating a really positive environment, whether it's in a classroom or in a meeting.
Yeah, I would say it's really important, like take initiative and put yourself out there for sure. Another question we have is for Ashton. How will COVID, in your opinion, impact the way we market products?
Oh my gosh. I still think we don't fully understand yet, but here are like my initial observations. I think number one is being so sensitive to where the consumer might be at and where your audience might be at and not being tone deaf. Like, I'm not going to name any names, but I remember when COVID first hit and it was like late March and I was getting emails in my inbox being like, everything you need for your summer getaway, everything you need for spring break. And I'm like, where am I going? So making sure that you're not that brand and nothing's on like set it and forget it. And I think just being super nimble, like I think that the world that we live in today is obviously vastly different than the world we knew 3 months ago, but what do the next 3 months look like? I still don't think we understand. And then I think that every brand, regardless of what you do or what you sell or how you, if you're online only or brick and mortar, whatever it is, has an opportunity to capitalize on cleanliness and kind of taking that to the next level, whatever that means, like, and whether it being content, how you deliver things to the customer. I don't know about you guys, but like things that I kind of did in the old world or thought were so normal, I'm like looking at like, oh my God, do I want to go back to a nail salon? Do I want to test a lipstick at Ulta? You know, it's just all so different. So just being really sensitive to the consumer and where we're at and having cleanliness be really top of mind.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's different. Definitely, like your opinion is very much like being very mindful of, you know, consumers and everyone that's kind of just going through it as well. All right. So next question is going to be for Jordan. Biggest challenge of beginning a company. What are your insights?
I feel like I could go on this one for days, but the number one, because I actually had to think about this one a lot. I think that the number one most difficult thing is establishing credibility basically in the market space, especially in cosmetics these days, but I do think that it's trickling out to all categories. But the barrier to entry to create your own beauty brand is so low, as I'm sure everybody on here knows. So many influencers have a brand. Everybody has a brand these days, because they're really easy to launch. But then it's hard to get the customer not only to try you for the very first time because they don't know who you are, they don't know what the quality of your product is. Like they're spending their hard-earned dollars, and they can only spend it in so many places. So getting them to choose to spend it on you and give you that first shot, I think is really hard. And that kind of expands even in a larger way. Like same with influencers, they're getting inundated with packages. So how do you get them to even give you a shot? Give you like a little bit of airtime. So I think that establishing credibility is probably the most difficult thing once you kind of have your basics down. And like I had mentioned on my other question, when we had first launched ColourPop, we wanted anybody to talk about us, and we couldn't get anyone to even answer our emails. We're like, we'll give you product, like please, like you can pick anything you want on the site. There was like no limit, no cap. And people weren't answering us, and they didn't answer us for like over a year. Like some of the big influencers that we work with now that we're really close with, they did not answer our email until like a year and a half later, when they were already seeing us on social media and we had built up some of that credibility. But it really took like a lot of these micro influencers who, like Kathleen Lights, for example, back in the day, she had like less than 200K followers when we first started working with her. And she was like one of the first people to talk about us. There was also a YouTuber, Coffee Break with Danny, who was small, but she was one of the first ones. Messy Jessie, like a lot of these people, they talked about us, they tried us, and they talked about us a lot. And then them as good feedback and good positive reviews kind of is what started to get other people to give us a shot. But getting your first foot in the door is really difficult. And we found that on my brand as well. Then I feel like we're pretty far in now and we're just starting to get some traction, and that's just a really hard egg to crack.
Yeah, I think that's true with anything. It's just like getting it started is probably the hardest part, and then you learn along the way for sure. All right, Nikki, a question for you is, what is the best part of your job?
Best part of my job. Okay.
As a
So
team.
the best part of my job, honestly, I really enjoy the content part. So I love doing anything where I have to work with the content team. I love attending photo shoots. There's free food. It's really bomb. But on top of that, I even love doing like giveaway photos. I love helping to produce those. I love looking for inspo. There's usually a lot of products involved when we do that. So that's one of my favorite parts. And then most recently, I think another thing that I've like started really loving is learning about skincare from Megan Lind. She is so great. And like before this, I've always had an interest in skincare, but ever since I started doing social for fourth grade, like I've learned so much more from her.
Yeah, for sure. We had the panel last week with product development, and Megan Lynn, like, I just wanted to ask her an ingredient question because I know even in meetings, I'm like, she just goes off and I love it. Like, she's so insightful and I always learn something new from her. All right. So, Amelia, do you see, for influencer marketing, do you see this as an effective marketing strategy, or is it played out?
It's definitely an effective marketing strategy. I mean, we have the data to prove that. But I think it has to be looked at in kind of a different way. It's not really a conversion play. It's more of like a top funnel audience warm up. It's also brand awareness. But I think that influencer marketing, like Jordan touched on, is now, and if it's not, the brands need to seriously look at what they're doing because it needs to be radically different than it was before. We have so much more access now that will allow us to pull metrics and data to decide who we want to work with and to see how they're performing. But I think that there's also just this huge shift going from these powerhouse influencers to more of the micro and mid-tier influencers. I think that there's something to be said about influencers are basically our peers at this point. So when they're talking about products, it's almost like a peer-to-peer recommendation. I mean, I personally don't want to buy something if it hasn't been reviewed, or at least some people are talking about it, whether it's through, the star reviews on a site, or if somebody I trust, somebody that I follow that I know has my same complexion or did a wear test on it. I kind of want that additional information so that I can have more confidence in purchasing product. I think you're on mute, babe.
All right, sorry about that. I probably cut off. Okay, so very good. Next question goes to Jordan. How do you juggle your time between INH and CP? The people want to know.
You're on mute.
I was saying that I get asked this question a lot. And I think that the one thing I would say, it's definitely not easy. I work pretty late on the weeknights. Like last night, for example, I was working till about midnight, and I would say that usually happens 2 or 3 nights a week. And I always work on the weekends. I usually work Saturday morning for 3 to 4 hours, and then I usually work the half the day on Sunday. So a lot of it is I work a lot. And then I think the other 2 major things are time blocking. I use Google Calendars. I will block like specific. I think the hard thing is I work with teams on both sides. And so a lot of times I'm like on Zoom and answering questions, but I'm not actually getting to do like the work that I need to do. So blocking off me time, by me time I mean me working time, is really helpful. And then I think that one of the most critical parts is having a really great team. And I've been really lucky because I have an amazing team on both sides, and everybody's been super understanding of the situation, but also everybody like really pulls their own weight. And so when you have an amazing team, then you can really focus on your parts of your job that you need to do well because you know everything else is handled.
Yeah, definitely having a good team and a good support system can make that easier. All right, so for Nikki, what's the source of your creative inspiration?
Okay. For my creative inspiration, I mainly look outside of beauty. I feel like it's so easy to kind of get stuck by like following beauty brands and think this is how we market beauty. But recently I have been looking at brands outside, like what is Netflix doing? What is Starbucks doing? Like, what are they doing in their marketing that nobody in beauty has done yet? That has been really, really helpful. And then I think from the skincare side, I like following a lot of skincare accounts and dermatologists, and I kind of pull inspo from that. So if I see a ton of people talking about like hydration versus moisture, then it's like a hot topic, and I want to bring that into a forthright story or fold that into something that we can put on the feed. I wish I had like something really cool, like, ooh, I follow the runway fashion trends, but not.
I mean, the feed looks really, I think, like so dreamy. So I think this insight is very, very helpful. Another question I have, I think this would be a great question for Ashton. There seems like to be a lot of people that are kind of getting their resumes started, kind of going on job interviews. So what would you say is a way to stand out, make your resume stand out and yourself stand out for an interview?
Yeah, it's so funny. Jordan and I were actually talking about this over dinner last week because somebody sent her a resume that was formatted. It was for an email marketing coordinator, right? That was the role. And it was formatted, the resume was formatted as if it was an email, like with the subject line and like why you should pick them. And I thought that was adorable, but I've seen that. I would say I see that like maybe twice a year, whatever role I'm in where I'm hiring, where someone just goes above and beyond. And like, that means so much to me. Even if you don't necessarily have the qualifications, like the exact qualifications that I'm looking for, if you spend time on your resume and catering it to like the role at ColourPop or wherever it is, and a cover letter that like really comes from the heart, like I will move you to the front of the line so fast. So I think it's just apply to the jobs that you really, really want and show them why you want that job and why you would be valuable, and it will shine through. And if like the person on the other end is worth their salt, they will bring you in.
For sure. I think it's important to be creative because there is a lot of, resumes being shown. So just to make yourself stand out, just be yourself and just be true to yourself. All right. Another question would be for Amelia. What are some tips for interviews?
Tips for interviews, but tips for like, even for myself, whenever I would have finals, I would get ready for it. Like get ready, get into a good mind space, listen to some good music on your drive in there, make sure you have plenty of time. Like these seem like really like basic things. Traffic in LA is crazy. So just give yourself plenty of time. If you have to sit in the parking lot, sit in the parking lot. Do not be late. Be mentally prepared, because then you can really present yourself. Interviews are so like nerve-wracking as it is. No need to add any additional stress onto all of that. So just make sure that the easy things, keep them easy, and then just step in and don't oversell yourself. Be confident with what you know. And a lot of time companies are looking for people that they can train into other like company culture or different types of processes that they have. So they're not looking for you to know everything when you come in.
I love that. Can I add one thing to that?
Yes, please go for it.
Okay. So one thing I would say too is piggybacking off Amelia is like, be flexible because you never know what can happen. My favorite story of life is when I interviewed at ColourPop and I was flying in from Chicago, and my bag and my laptop with my presentation for the interview was lost. So all I had was like the clothes on my back and I think that was it, and like a cell phone. So it's just hysterical what can happen in those situations. So just go with the flow too. Like things might happen at like those very important moments, and that's where you'll shine if you can be flexible and like make it work.
For sure. I think Virginia, you have an interesting or funny story on your interview here, if you would like to.
It was not exactly ideal. I was actually road tripping across from New Hampshire to LA. I had never been to California. I was just like, I'm moving there post-graduation. Love that for me. And it was my dream to work at ColourPop, but it wasn't something that I thought was going to happen. Like I thought I would get a job here and like, eventually apply when something came up. But actually Jordan posted to her story that they were hiring someone for, I think, a social media intern. And my sister sent it to me. And I was like, I'll just apply. I'm like on the road. And I actually ended up getting like a call to do like a phone interview, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. And then follow-up was a FaceTime interview, and that's where things went a little rough. So I was in the car, like, I mean, we were like car camping, like doing the whole like young adventurous living. And I was like, you know, I'll stop. I went off the highway in the middle of nowhere to a Starbucks. So I was like, obviously they'll have good Wi-Fi. I'll bring out my laptop, look so professional. I changed in their bathroom. But actually their Wi-Fi sucks, just in case anyone's wondering. And that didn't exactly work out. So I had to like last minute do it on my phone, and my phone actually overheated for being in the car. And also they could see that I was like in my car. I was doing my phone interview in the car. So it overheated and like wouldn't let me call them back for 5 minutes, because it was just like, I need a moment. And I had no way I was going to like call them on my boyfriend's phone, but I didn't have the number. It was in my dead phone. And I was just like, they think I'm so unprofessional right now. And that all of that happening like freaked me out. So then the last question of the interview, I totally blanked. I was like, this is it. Like, I'm not going to get this. But, you know, I think that my passion for ColourPop and like what I wanted to do here really like came out ultimately. So don't let yourself freak out when things don't always go according to plan. Just kind of keep going with the flow and put yourself out there. And just
for sure.
I think if you're like really passionate for something, you can't really hide that.
Yeah, I wanted to share your story because I know that everyone gets nervous for interviews and not everything goes perfectly, but it's just like, it goes back to what Ashton says. You have to just be really flexible and just, you know, be the best thing you can be. So there's that. A question for Nikki I have is, do you have any other tips on how to expand your knowledge in marketing?
I think like as an English major in college, I learned nothing about marketing in actual classrooms or in school. I learned everything that I learned about marketing from like actual experience and like working and doing internships. So for sure, I think number one, do a ton of internships and just go out for anything, like take any opportunity to learn. And then number two is that right now, while we're in quarantine, I've actually been taking a ton of like webinar classes. And I feel like those have been so helpful, not only to learn about marketing, but to learn about what other brands are doing and what other people in my position are doing so that I can like grow from there.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Of all 3 classes.
Sorry about that. I think I was on mute. All right, so next question goes for Jordan. How do you take the time and need a sense of privacy for yourself when you are one of the primary faces that we see on ColourPop's social media platform?
Interesting. I would say that I have tried to kind of just integrate it into my day to day and try to not feel any pressure to post anything that I don't want to post. And I do think I kind of had like a social media like existential crisis because I know that a lot of my followers follow me because of ColourPop and they want to see me do makeup all the time. But I was like, I don't always want to be like the selfie girl, like posting selfies. Like that's like not, a lot of my friends are like, your social media doesn't represent who you are. And so I think I was like in kind of a limbo. So I think that the big thing for me is I love interacting with everyone. I love like being a part of the ColourPop brand. It's been an amazing experience. I just had to take away some of the pressure and be like, I'm going to post whatever I want to post. And people are either going to follow it or not follow it. So I think that a lot of it just comes down to just being like organic and not letting like any of the pressure of the type of content that you should post kind of get to you, I guess.
Yeah, love that. That's amazing. All right, for Ashton, what are some things you wish you knew before going into the beauty industry?
Oh my gosh. That is a really good question. So yeah, so a little bit of my background, I never worked in beauty until ColourPop, like nothing even close. I wish I had understood how different marketing is for beauty, in that you can build a community for like basically any industry, right? Like even like automotive parts, you could probably build a community around that. But the beauty community is like on steroids. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. And I think it's for a couple of reasons. One, it's like it's not a zero-sum game, right? Everyone wants to know like how you got that look, and it's okay to share that. You're not like sharing some like crazy secret. And then 2, just like the application process itself makes for such excellent content. And then 3, the barrier to entry, at least for ColourPop and most of our competitors, is so low that kind of anyone can participate. And I just don't think I understood the magnitude of that before joining ColourPop. Like I understood the basics of marketing, but I did not understand how powerful the community was and just how big it can be. It's unlike anything else.
Yeah, it's very, very different, but it's also very extremely fun, and it's fun to like keep learning what, because it changes so often. So it's nice to like keep learning as you go, for sure. All right,
And
Amelia.
just to kind of add on to that too, because I kind of had the same experience when I came over, but also they really hold you accountable. Like they're super invested in the brand, and they will hold you accountable, which is kind of refreshing, because it's just like, no, we need to make sure that we're doing right by them, and we need to make sure that we're always having them to drive whatever we're putting out there as a product, and we better be really damn proud of it.
It's so true. I mean, the minute if we do like anything that slightly upsets our community, we will know about it right away. And, we were just talking to Laura about something that we were getting feedback on. I think it was yesterday, actually. And she was like, when people call us out for something that we know that we're doing a poor job of, I'm okay with that. She was like, when the community calls us out for something that we had no idea was not on our radar, and we were like bumped over the head with it, she was like, that's a very humbling moment. And to Amelia's point, like I feel so grateful for that, because there's not a lot of other industries where you would get that real time feedback so quickly.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Oh my gosh. We definitely always keep an eye out for that. And I think that it's always good to be conscious of our customers and listen to what it is that they have to say. All right. So for Amelia, let's see. How do you recommend overcoming an obstacle having a checkered past? You are 2 examples of how you can work out well, but typically turn it off for employers. So basically, how do you overcome an obstacle?
I lean on my peers a lot. I have like what I like to call like my board of directors, and they're just people that I really trust, people with experience, and I really, really turn to them. I make sure that I'm staying within my own integrity, because you're going to make some mistakes. And as long as like even being a manager to a big team, I'm going to make some mistakes. But at the end of the day, if I know that I've led with integrity and I did like the best job that I can do, I made the best decisions I could with the information that I had, you get through it. You get through it. So yeah, I mean, just don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and just don't let them hold you back either. Just get back up, brush off the dirt, and keep on going.
Yeah, that's good. I think that, don't be, so hard on yourself. Everyone kind of makes mistakes, but the most important thing is that you have to own it and, grow from that. All right, next question. I feel like this one's super interesting, and I'm actually curious to know too. It's going to be for Nikki. So, how do you find the balance between promoting new products and old products?
I think, well, recently we've just been promoting old products because we haven't really seen anything new. But during like a regular time of year, I think that other than during launches, so we usually launch on Thursday, right? And then we'll usually focus on it from Thursday through Sunday. And by the time it's Monday, it's like a free for all. I can promote whatever I want. So usually on Monday, I'll bring back like our best sellers or like whatever is really working for us on social. I'll bring that right back in. I only focus on launches when we absolutely need to. So that's kind of like the balance there. Thursdays, new product. Other days, do what I want.
Yeah. What is your favorite ColourPop product ever?
Me?
Or what are some of your favorites?
Oh, the Pretty Fresh Concealer. Bomb. I use it every day. Everyone should try it. It's very underrated, and I feel like not a lot of people tried it. So
yeah. All right. I think this is going to be a last question for us. All right, and this one could go to Jordan. So what are some opportunities for high school students to learn from marketing? What advice would you give a high school student?
I think that podcasts are a great, especially when you're in high school, because I mean, we actually have had some high school interns at ColourPop. So I feel like if you have that kind of opportunity, then it's never too soon. But I think otherwise, I think podcasts are really amazing. I really love How Is It Built, because it kind of takes you through the whole process of, is that what it's called? Did I miss say that? I think that's what it's called.
How I built this.
Yeah, thank you. I knew I was wrong. um, but I think that it really walks you through like the process of beginning to end and the unique things that people do. But then the other thing, it kind of tags off of something that Nikki Tran said earlier, which I think is really, really helpful. Marketing isn't so cut and dry, like by the book. I think it's always changing. And so I think that the best way to kind of be up to speed on what's happening and what appears to be working for other brands is literally just going out and finding it for yourself. I think that you can visit any major brand who you love or who you see is picking up steam and getting trendy. Like, go see what they're doing. Like, how did they get trendy? How did they start to pop off? Like, who are they talking to? Who are they working with? What have you seen? And I think that if you just start taking note of those things and like listing them out, and even in your head thinking like, what could they have done better? What could they do differently? And looking at brands who maybe aren't doing that well, doing the same thing with them, and seeing like, what would you recommend as like a consumer. I think you'd be surprised the insights you can put together. And I think that some of the best marketers that I've worked with have had zero marketing experience, but they just really took the opportunity to look at a situation like strategically as a consumer and put two and two together of what should be happening here. And so I think that you can really self-teach a lot of marketing if you just take the time to deep dive.
I really want to emphasize that. Like, I love what Jordan just said about some of the best marketers don't have a background in marketing. That is so true. And I couldn't agree with that more. I think if you have a passion for whatever it is that you're selling and connecting with your community, you can achieve anything. I think Amelia is an amazing example of that. She was a freaking flight attendant, and now she's like, I literally couldn't do my job without her. I could not go to work without her every single day. And I mean that. And then even Jordan, like, still in college and inventing the influencer collab. What even? So yeah, I really believe in that. And Nikki with an English background. I mean, come on, man, running like one of the biggest social accounts in the world.
Yeah, a lot of it's just, I feel like you can learn so much just like anyone, even if you are currently in your field or you're thinking of switching, like there's so much out there that you can learn. Like YouTube has taught me so many things, podcasts, as they mentioned. And I think just being like we're all consumers in some way or another. I actually got my first job in marketing while I was in college. I was I was a journalism major at the time. And I got a job as a marketing manager for a tech company when I knew absolutely nothing about tech. Because I just did the research. Like, I looked up their website and I came into the interview with suggestions for ways that they can improve their marketing. And even though I was probably one of their least qualified and youngest candidates, I ended up getting the job just because they really liked my ideas, and that like I came in like ready to go and ready to like help improve what they had going on for them. So
to go off of what Virginia just said, I just posted a story last night on my IG about this exact thing. And my boyfriend was doing applications, was reading through applications for a role that he had open. And like the best one, he literally was like, holy cow, like come read this email. And it was this person who had no experience in the role. It's like a product development role, no previous experience. And they basically said that at the beginning. It was like a very casual intro letter where they were like, I've never done product before, but this is what I have done. And I've been looking at your site and like, these are my recommendations for the product. And it was like amazing insight. He was like, wow, yeah, holy cow. He's like, she's totally right about that. And it was like deep insight. Like he was like, why is your shampoo bottle like bigger than your conditioner bottle? Or maybe it was vice versa. But it was like things that made total sense that just everybody in the weeds at the company hadn't put two and two together. But I think if you send like strategic insight, whether you've done marketing or have never done marketing, that's how you get in it. And that can be applied to so many things, like getting your first job in marketing, getting somebody's attention if you're submitting a resume, and you're in person, like how do you stand out? Like be strategic with your thoughts, and you'd be really surprised how far you can go, because I think a lot of people go in and just answer the question like very plainly instead of putting a lot of thought behind it.
that is so true. Thank you so much, everyone. That is actually going to wrap up our webinar today. We cannot thank you all enough for joining us. We hope you were able to learn something new that will help you as you navigate the beauty or marketing industry. I would also like to thank our panelists for taking the time to share their stories and all of their knowledge. I know I learned a lot from them personally. And lastly, I would like to thank Tina, the director of the Beauty Industry Program, for helping us coordinate all of this for you all. All right, everyone, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and goodbye.
Bye, everyone.